Went over to PNC Park yesterday. Last time to be around the team in 2024. And I got to tell you, for a very, very long time, that's been a thing for me. I've always been way more about the last game than I am about the opener. Just kind of a sappy thing that goes back to childhood and was not there at all yesterday. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. Comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins that I hope you'll check out. Pirates 2, Brewers 1. Luis Ortiz with a nice finish to a nice season for him. These guys wanted to relegate him to a long relief role. He kept his chin up, kept pitching well, has put himself into a position to be part of the rotation next year, regardless of who's running baseball ops. Leo Verpregero with a 2-run double to account for all the offense. Dennis Santana, Aroldis Chapman, putting up zeros in the 8th and 9th. And I didn't care about that. I didn't care about really much of anything. I had an opportunity to wish some people, including a few of the players, a happy, healthy off-season, thank them for their professionalism and cooperation, meaning from the media standpoint, that's standard stuff. It's also genuine when you say it because those are the guys that you're dealing with. And had a few other conversations and left. And nothing. And no kindling of this or that. None of the looking back over my shoulder at that beautiful ballpark or remembering what it was like when the place opened, not just because of how pretty it was and what it could do for our city, but also because of the very real hope that was instilled. This was it. You know, there was going to be not a completely level playing field, but a leveler playing field. Ownership was different at the time, but it was grossly undercapitalized under Kevin McClatchy. They tried what they could, put themselves in a bunch of debt, and basically needed the Nutting family to buy them out of that debt, which of course resulted in the team being bought out. And since then, there have been times where, you allow yourself to think this or that in a positive context. I mean, unless we're lying to each other here, there was some of that this past summer. There was. To me, more than at any point, it was when you had Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, and Jared Jones just going 1, 2, 3 right through everybody. Bailey Falter was pitching well behind that. Ortiz had his moments. All you're thinking is, man, this team's like a bat or two away because they didn't need to score many runs. They needed 2 or 3, but they couldn't get that. Or if I word it more accurately, they wouldn't get that. Ben Cherington refused to lift a pinky finger to help the offense because it would defy his precious process and because these people aren't competitive. And I've been telling you that on this program for a couple of years now, just as I've been telling you that Bob Nutting's 2 greatest shortcomings as an owner have nothing to do with payroll. They are, in no particular order, 1, he's a gross over-delegator. Just gives people jobs and just says, you just go ahead and do those. Doesn't get involved, doesn't instill accountability. And by the way, parenthetically, doesn't sit there and monitor the DFAs. No owner does that. But look, I get where that thing took off and there's no bringing it back. 2, he's terrible at hiring. And it's not even just who you know. I know of others he's hired, even in other lines of work outside the Pirates. He's not good at this. I can't begin to fathom what his methodology is for it, but it's not something that's come with great results. To everyone's credit, and in this case it was both Nutting and Travis Williams, out of the 2 finalists that they came down to for the GM job in late 2019, one of them would have been a grand slam, that being Milwaukee's Matt Arnold. So they came close, But, they came close and still took the wrong guy. Not hindsight on my part either. I wrote a column calling for Arnold to be the choice, forecasting that Cherington was going to be, and this was the terminology I used in the column, Neil Huntington 2.0. And that's pretty much what he's been, except for those 3 good years that Huntington had. But this is when it has to happen again. This is when Nutting has to take charge the way he did in late 2019. If you want nothing to do with the Pirates because of Nutting, go nuts. You'll most certainly have lots of company. If you want to see the Pirates succeed, even under this owner, bearing in mind that he can't be changed, then you're probably going to want to get behind this notion that he should do now what he did in 2019. If he does the right thing, if he gets rid of all these people, and from there he makes clear that whoever it is that's coming in next will not be partaking in anything remotely resembling a rebuild since, Paul Skeens is here. And then he shows further transparency in putting forth what kind of general manager, what kind of field manager he'd like to pursue. My guess, and that's all it can be, is that it would be received pretty well, maybe very well. When we come back, J1Q.
It's Gun Storage Check Week. Help prevent unwanted access to your firearms. No one wants their unsecured gun to be used in an accident, a suicide, or a crime. Use lockboxes, safes, and locks to secure your firearms. Learn more at gunstoragecheck.org. That's gunstoragecheck.org. Brought to you by NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association.
Today's J1Q comes from Chris, who says, DK, how do you win fewer games in 2024 with Paul Skeens and Jared Jones than you did without them in 2023? To me, the discussion about the future of the GM and manager starts and ends right there. I guess that's fair. If we're talking about the ultimate results, Chris, we're talking about nothing other than wins and losses. If we're talking about a season in which everyone, including the GM and the manager, at least couching it somewhat, acknowledged that there needed to be something in 2024. There hasn't been anything in 2024. Not only did they have Skeens and Jones, but remember that to all of their credit, all the way to the top, they promoted both of those kids well before any sort of Super 2 arbitration scenarios could arise. And in fact, with Jones, they had him up to start the season. So they had Jones the whole year, minus obviously the injury. Injuries are part of the game. And they had Skeens as soon as it was even a little bit reasonable to bring him up. Skeens, of course, was dominant the whole way through. Jones had himself a really, really nice run at the beginning, had to deal with some stuff after that. And from there, they benefited from yet another terrific year from Brian Reynolds, who was acquired by the previous management team. A nice year for O'Neal Cruz, who was acquired by the previous management team. An inspiring year for a 37-year-old out of Andrew McCutchen, who was acquired, 3 management teams ago now through the draft? The only other real consistent positive was Joey Bart, and maybe to a lesser extent, you could say Nick Gonzalez, both of those being to the credit of the current management team. That's not enough. 5 years of all different forms of acquisition, trades, free agent signings, the draft, Latin America. And that's where I keep coming back to. That's the part that I least like to see them get let off the hook, including by mindless informationless media people with big stages who don't cover the team and who would go on a program yesterday and embarrass themselves by saying that poor Charrington was actually one of the terms that was used in this thing. I'm not even going to do it the justice of naming it. Poor Charrington had his hands tied, has no chance here without even the tiniest effort to look up what Charrington has done with the money he's been allotted, and then comparing that to the industry norm, and then looking at, his record. I believe this will be the 8th time in Charrington's 10 total seasons as a general manager in Major League Baseball that his team will have finished in last place. That ain't an accident at this point, my friends. So there's more to it, but it's really about the building. Charrington, was brought here to build. He didn't. Derek Shelton was brought here to teach. He didn't. They've all got to go. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everyone listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. Going to do another one of these tomorrow.